What if I told you that somewhere right now Vermeer's The Concert, a painting worth over $200 million, might be hanging in someone's basement? Or that Rembrandt's only seascape might be stored in an underground vault? The infamous Gardner Museum heist removed 13 irreplaceable masterpieces from public view, creating a $500 million mystery that remains unsolved to this day. From the suspicious security flaws, the strange selection of artwork, the peculiar police disguises, to the persistent FBI investigation, I'm about to take you inside the most daring art crime of the modern era. But before we jump in, please take a second to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to stay up to date with the channel. Alright, let's dive into the video. The Gardner Museum, which was constructed in 1901, is home to more than 15,000 artworks that the late Isabella Stewart Gardner gathered. The museum was the target of a famous robbery on March 18, 1990. The total value of the stolen artwork exceeds $500 million, even though just 13 pieces were taken. Paradoxically, the museum was updating its antiquated security system at the time of the heist. Two inexperienced guards were on duty the night of the theft. Richard Abeth, a security guard, was a member of a rock band and a music school dropout. He worked as a museum security guard at night and as a rock performer during the day. He acknowledged that occasionally after a performance he would arrive at work intoxicated or high. Around 12:54 a.m., a half hour before the robbers were able to enter the building, a fire alarm went off on the museum's third level, despite Richard's insistence that he was sober the night of the heist. Upon investigation, no fire was found. It's unclear if this was a component of the thieves' plan. Two individuals in police uniforms buzzed into Richard's security desk at 1:24 in the morning. The men looked for entrance, claiming they were responding to a report of disturbance. The security guard thought that a disturbance call was reasonable because the area was hosting St. Patrick's Day parties. Richard reportedly mentioned that he had tickets to a Grateful Dead show later that day and didn't want to get jailed. In violation of museum policy, Richard buzzed the two police officers through the employee entrance. Then one of the men addressed Richard, saying,
"You look familiar. I think we have a default warrant out for you. Come out here and show us some identification."
The lone button on Richard's control desk that would instantly notify the police was deceived into letting him go. Then he was told to stand motionless with his back to the wall. Richard recalls thinking that this might be a robbery as he was being handcuffed and thought it was strange that he had not been frisked previously. At this time, the second guard arrived and was also restrained. When the second guard inquired as to why he was being taken into custody, the men responded,
"You're not being arrested. This is a robbery. Don't give us any problems, and you won't get hurt."
Duct tape was used to tie the guards' hands, feet, and heads. The robbers then proceeded to the second floor and dispersed, stealing different works of art from the walls, according to motion detectors in the museum. An alarm that was supposed to notify a guard that someone had approached the artwork too closely went off during the robbery. When robbers discovered the alarm, they destroyed it. The robbers returned to the security counter at 2:28 a.m. They went back to the basement to see how the guards were doing. After that, they took out the recordings that captured their movements outside the side door and throughout the museum. 13 minutes later, they prepared to leave, making two different trips to get the artwork to their car. Witnesses claimed to have seen the robbers sitting in a red hatchback close to the museum. Among 13 of the artifacts seized, 3 Rembrandts and, oddly, a gilt finial eagle from a Napoleonic flag outside the tapestry room were noteworthy. They attempted to remove a 4th Rembrandt, but it seemed to be too difficult. The deputy security director called the police after the 2 morning shift guards arrived for work almost 4 hours later, between 6:45 and 8:16 a.m., but were unable to get into the museum. When the police showed up at 8:30 a.m., they found the 2 night security officers in handcuffs in the basement. The robbers wore gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints, but they left their faces uncovered so the guards could see them well. When questioned by the Boston police, security guard Richard Abeth was unable to remember the men's appearance. The police drawing Richard remembers was awful. However, in 2005, Richard Abeth said, One of them looked like Colonel Klink on Hogan's Heroes, that's all I can remember. Some people question why the robbers left behind items like a Titian and a Michelangelo that were obviously worth more. And why did they spend so much effort attempting to capture the finial eagle, an inconspicuous object? In April 1994, the museum received an anonymous letter claiming to know the whereabouts of the artwork, which was an intriguing development. The person who wrote it seems to be quite knowledgeable about both the stolen works and the art world as a whole. The museum had to take immediate action because a buyer in another country, who was not aware that the items were stolen, could buy them and claim legal title, according to the anonymous tipster, even if the works were safe in a controlled setting. In order to facilitate the return of the artwork, the writer requested $2.6 million. The museum concurred. Then came a second letter to the museum. Although the writer was happy that they wanted to negotiate, the interference of the federal, state, and local governments deterred them. The writer publicly questioned whether they were attempting to arrest them in addition to reclaiming the artwork. The tipster further stated that they would provide some hints as to the location of the artwork, even if they did not see any possibility of completing the talks. The writer never again contacted the museum. Before we continue on, if you are enjoying the video so far, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you don't like it, let me know down in the comments. Your support truly means everything. Alright, back to the video. According to the first theory, the crime was committed by a thief by the name of Brian McDevitt. In the 1980s, Brian had performed a similar art robbery in which he took control of a FedEx vehicle and gave the driver a dose. Brian intended to locate museum staff at the Hyde Collection in Glens Falls, New York, wearing a uniform and carrying duct tape, and he would tear paintings out of their frames. Sadly, Brian and his cronies' intentions were ruined when they got caught in traffic and arrived after the museum had closed. Brian's attempted heist landed him in jail for a few months. Additionally, Brian McDevitt lived around 10 minutes' drive from the Gardner Museum at the time of the crime. He testified before a grand jury after being questioned by the FBI in 1992. But according to his attorney, who spoke to the Boston Globe, his client was unaware of the crime. The second theory, that the heist was an inside job, is a classic. This would explain how the robbers were aware that the artwork lacked anti-theft mechanisms and how they knew exactly where the only alarm button was. Richard Abbott, a security guard, was still under suspicion, according to the FBI. Richard's bad performance at work is not the only reason for the mistrust. As previously stated, Richard was particularly unable to remember the criminals' faces in the immediate aftermath of the crime. Furthermore, the motion sensor equipment was strangely not recorded by the thieves on the first floor, where a piece was stolen, even though the criminals did not destroy it. But before the robbers showed up, Richard was seen roaming around the room on the same floor. Additionally, Richard violated security procedures by allowing the police officers in disguise to enter. It was against museum protocol to admit unauthorized personnel, even police officers, without the required paperwork. According to Richard, he was not aware of this policy. However, he had previously violated protocol. Richard had sneaked several of his friends into one of the New Year's Eve parties at the museum. That might seem very harmless, but it's nothing compared to his third protocol violation. The night before the heist, Richard is seen on a tape letting an unapproved guest inside. This individual may have been casing the joint for a dry run, according to law enforcement officials. Despite being seen on camera, Richard says he does not recall this visitor. However, Richard Abbott said he is still upset over that night in a 2015 interview. Arthur Brand, a Dutch private detective with expertise in international art crimes, offers the third theory. Brand has made remarkable efforts to retrieve stolen art by pretending to be a general criminal, a Texas oil millionaire, and a representative of sheiks and princes. He once arranged the recovery of artwork valued at $25 million with criminal organizations. About a year after the theft in 1991, Brand obtained pictures of the pilfered artwork in storage in Holland. He learned in 2010 that one of the Irish Republican Army's members had the parts. Arthur Brand, who has spent around 12 years working on the case with the FBI, believes that the pieces were first taken by small-time criminals who subsequently sold them to gang members in the United States. These gang members may have sent the parts to Ireland sometime in the mid-1990s, when they were eventually acquired by senior IRA commanders. According to Arthur, he could have the components back in a few months. He says the probe and leads are making the haystack smaller, but he won't give any specifics. FBI spokeswoman Kristen Sitera stated, "The FBI believes with high confidence that we have identified those responsible for the theft, even though we still don't know where the art is currently located." According to Museum Security Director Anthony Amore, stolen artifacts are either found shortly after the incident or around a generation later. The museum had a $5 million prize for information that would lead to the return of the artwork in good condition for many years. The offer was doubled to a $10 million incentive at one point. However, it ended on December 31st, 2017. In the middle of the 1990s, the statute of limitations for pursuing the theft was passed. The U.S. Attorney for Boston declared in 2005 that he would not bring charges against anyone who came forward with the paintings. It's unclear if that day will ever arrive. The location of the stolen artwork from the Gardner Museum and the identity of the criminals are still unknown. Decades have passed, and yet the Gardner Museum heist remains one of the greatest unsolved crimes in history. The stolen masterpieces? Still missing. The thieves? Never caught. Theories continue to circulate and new leads emerge from time to time, but one question remains. Will we ever see these priceless works of art again? What do you think happened? Was it an inside job? Did the artwork end up in the hands of the IRA? Or is it hidden away in some secret collection, waiting to be discovered? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your theories. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a topic suggestion, please send it to the email in the description. And as always, remember to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. And remember, the only thing scarier than this story is missing out on our next video.